The crystal champagne flute shattered in my grip, sending shards across the mahogany dining table. My father didn't even flinch. He just kept talking about Glenn's latest acquisition deal, as if I hadn't spent the last 6 months orchestrating that exact same strategy. I'm Hannah, and I've spent my entire life watching my father shower praise on my brothers while treating me like I'm invisible. Tonight was supposed to be different. I'd finally closed a deal that would expand our tech division into 3 new markets. Instead, here we sat at our weekly family dinner, with Dad acting like I was nothing more than expensive wallpaper. The board meeting next week will be crucial, my father announced, dabbing his mouth with a napkin. Glenn, I want you to present the quarterly projections. Nash, you'll handle the operations report. I cleared my throat. What about the tech division expansion? I assumed I'd be presenting that, considering Glenn can handle that too. Dad cut me off, not even bothering to look in my direction. He has the right presence for these things. Glenn, ever the golden child, had the decency to look uncomfortable. Actually, Dad, Hannah did put together the whole strategy. Maybe she should. I've made my decision. Dad's tone carried that familiar note of finality that had crushed my spirit countless times before, but not tonight. Tonight, something inside me snapped. I closed that deal, I said, my voice steady despite the rage bubbling beneath the surface. I spent 6 months negotiating with their board. I know every detail of the merger. Dad finally looked at me, his steel-gray eyes dismissive. Hannah, dear, this isn't about who did what. It's about who can best represent the company's interests. And that can't possibly be your daughter, right? I pushed back my chair, the legs scraping against the hardwood floor. Because God forbid a woman could actually understand business. Nash reached for my arm. Hannah, come on. No. I jerked away from his touch. I'm tired of this. I have an MBA from Harvard, just like Glenn. I've closed more deals in the past year than both my brothers combined. What exactly am I missing? A Y chromosome? The silence that followed was deafening. Our housekeeper, Maria, quietly slipped out of the dining room, probably sensing the incoming storm. My father set down his fork with deliberate slowness. You're being emotional, as usual. This is exactly why. Why what, Dad? Why you've been systematically pushing me out of every major decision. Why you've been redirecting my clients to Glenn. Why you've been blocking my access to board meetings. Glenn's head snapped up. Wait, what? Dad? You've been doing that? Dad waved his hand dismissively. I've been protecting the company's interests. The Mack family business has always been passed down through the male line. It's tradition. It's discrimination, I shot back. And it's about to blow up in your face. That got his attention. Is that a threat? I smiled, feeling a calm settle over me that I hadn't experienced in years. No, Dad. It's a promise. You've taught me one valuable lesson. In business, you have to take what you want. Nobody's going to hand it to you. Hannah, Nash warned, but I could see the glimmer of respect in his eyes. I stood up, smoothing down my black dress. I suggest you all pay very close attention at next week's board meeting. You might learn something about presence. As I walked toward the door, Dad called out, You're making a mistake, challenging me like this. I turned back one last time, meeting his gaze. No, your mistake was teaching me everything about business except how to stay in my place. I learned something else instead, how to take control. The door closed behind me with a satisfying click, but not before I heard Nash whisper, She's not bluffing, Dad. You've never seen her like this. He was right. They'd never seen this version of me because I'd spent years hiding her, trying to be the dutiful daughter. But that Hannah was gone. In her place stood someone who had finally figured out how to play the game, their game, and win. Walking to my car, I pulled out my phone and dialed a familiar number. Talia, it's time. Start moving the shares exactly like we discussed. Dad just made his last mistake. The night air was cool against my skin, but I felt nothing but fire in my veins. They thought they knew me. The quiet, compliant daughter who would eventually marry some executive and fade into comfortable obscurity. They had no idea what was coming. Let them underestimate me one last time. By this time next week, they'd never make that mistake again. You're sure about these numbers? I asked, scanning the documents spread across Talia's desk. The morning sun streamed through her office windows, highlighting the complex web of share ownership we'd mapped out. Absolutely, Talia replied, tapping her perfectly manicured nail on a particular spreadsheet. Your father owns 40%, Glenn has 15%, Nash has 10%, and the remaining shares are distributed among board members and public trading. We've already secured 17% through various shell companies. I took a sip of my coffee, letting the information sink in. And they haven't noticed? Please. Talia rolled her eyes. Your father's too busy grooming Glenn to notice that his precious shares are being bought up by seemingly unrelated entities. Vanessa's been invaluable in keeping everything under the radar. As if on cue, Vanessa strode into the office, her characteristic confidence filling the room. Speaking of which, I just got out of a breakfast meeting with Harrison from the board. He's willing to sell his shares. All 5%. I straightened in my chair. What's his price? He wants a guaranteed position on the new board once you take control. Vanessa's lips curved into a knowing smile. He's not stupid. He sees which way the wind is blowing. Done, I said without hesitation. Draw up the paperwork. Talia leaned forward. Hannah, are you sure? Once we cross the 20% threshold, there's no going back. I crossed that line the moment Dad decided to hand Glenn my tech division project. I stood up, walking to the window. Besides, we need to move faster. Something's not right. What do you mean? Vanessa asked. Dad called an emergency meeting with our lawyers yesterday. Glenn was there too. I turned back to face them. They're planning something. Talia's fingers flew across her keyboard. Let me check. Oh shit. What? There's a draft document in the system. Your father's planning to convert some of the company's shares into Class B shares with superior voting rights. If this goes through, all our careful planning goes up in smoke, I finished. When? The document's dated for next week, right after the board meeting. I grabbed my phone, dialing quickly. Time to call in that favor then. A familiar voice answered on the second ring. Hannah, I was wondering when you'd call. Aiden, I said. Remember that deal we discussed? I need to move up the timeline. There was a pause. Your father's making his move, isn't he? You knew? Let's just say you're not the only one who's been watching Mac Enterprises closely. His voice carried a hint of amusement. I can help you, but my terms have changed. I gripped the phone tighter. Name them. Dinner. Tonight. We'll discuss the details somewhere your father's spies can't reach. I caught Talia's warning look, but ignored it. Text me the details. After hanging up, Vanessa cleared her throat. Hannah, are you sure about this? Aiden Ryan isn't exactly known for his loyalty. Neither am I, apparently. I gathered my documents. Besides, he hates my father as much as I do. That's all the loyalty I need right now. Just then, my phone buzzed with a text from Nash. Emergency at the office. Dad's looking for you. It's about the tech division. Showtime, I muttered, grabbing my coat. Talia, get those papers to Harrison today. Vanessa, start the process with Aiden's team. I need to go play the dutiful daughter one last time. Hannah, Talia called as I reached the door. Be careful. Your father didn't build an empire by being stupid. I flashed her a confident smile that I didn't entirely feel. No, but he built it by underestimating the wrong people. Time to show him exactly how much that's going to cost him. The drive to the office was tense. I knew what awaited me. Another attempt to sideline me, to put me in my place. But this time was different. This time, I had an ace up my sleeve. As I walked through the lobby, my heels clicking against the marble floor, I caught my reflection in the glass doors. Gone was the uncertain daughter seeking approval. In her place stood someone who had learned to turn her father's greatest weapon, his dismissal of her, into her greatest advantage. The elevator doors opened to the executive floor, and I could hear raised voices from my father's office. Glenn's voice carried down the hallway. "Dad, you can't just remove her from the project entirely. She'll what?" My father's voice boomed. "Challenge me, please. Hannah doesn't have it in her to go against this family." I smiled to myself, straightening my jacket. "Oh, Dad," I thought, "you have no idea what I have in me." Taking a deep breath, I pushed open the office door, ready to play my part in this charade one last time. After all, the best revenge isn't served cold. It's served when they never see it coming. The restaurant's dim lighting couldn't hide the intensity in Aiden's eyes as he slid a folder across the table. 23%, he said. "That's what I can guarantee you by Friday." I nearly choked on my wine. "That's impossible. The market doesn't have that many available shares." "The market doesn't," he agreed, his smile sharp. "But I've been collecting them quietly for months, waiting for someone like you to come along." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. Nash's name flashed on the screen. I'd been dodging his calls all day, but something made me answer this time. "We need to talk," he said without preamble. "Not at the office. Not at home. Meet me at Riley's in 20 minutes. I looked at Aiden apologetically. "Family emergency. Careful, Hannah," he warned as I stood. "The moment you sign these papers, there's no going back. Your father will never forgive you." Good thing I stopped seeking his forgiveness a long time ago. I grabbed the folder and my purse. "I'll have an answer for you tomorrow." Riley's was our childhood hangout, a dive bar far enough from the financial district that we'd never run into anyone from work. Nash was already there, nursing a beer at our usual corner booth. "You've been busy," he said, as I slid in across from him. My heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean?" "Cut the act, Hannah. I know about the shares." He leaned forward. "And I know about Aiden Ryan." I kept my face neutral, even as my mind raced. "How?" "Because I've been doing the same thing." He pulled out his phone, showing me a complex diagram of share ownership. "Though not quite as effectively as you." "You're buying shares?" I couldn't hide my surprise. "Why?" "Same reason as you. I'm tired of being underestimated." He took another swig of beer. "Glenn's not the only one Dad's been grooming. He's been playing us against each other for years." I studied my brother's face, looking for any sign of deception. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I found something you need to see." He pulled out another folder. I was getting sick of folders, and spread several documents on the table. "Dad's planning to merge with Patterson Industries. The deal's almost done." "That's impossible. Patterson is our biggest competitor." "Exactly. And guess who gets controlling interest in the merged company?" He pointed to a name on the document. "Glenn." The pieces clicked into place. "That's why they're converting the shares. They're not just trying to stop me, they're planning to dilute everyone's ownership." "Including mine," Nash added. "We'll both be effectively pushed out." I sat back, my mind spinning. "So, what are you proposing?" "An alliance." Nash's eyes met mine. "Combine our shares. Work together instead of against each other. We can stop this merger and take control before Dad knows what hit him." "How do I know this isn't a trap?" "Because I'm not Dad's puppet, no matter what he thinks." Nash's voice cracked slightly. "Remember when I wanted to start the international division? Dad shut it down because it was too risky." Then 6 months later, he let Glenn do exactly the same thing. I remembered. I also remembered comforting Nash that night, both of us drinking too much and cursing our father's name. If we do this, I said slowly, we do it my way. No half measures. Agreed. Nash pulled out a pen. But we need to move fast. The merger announcement is scheduled for the annual party next week. My phone buzzed again. A text from Talia. Harrison's shares secured. We're at 22%. Call me ASAP. I showed Nash the message. With your shares, how much would we have? He grinned. 35%. Add in Aiden's holdings. We'd have control. I felt a smile spreading across my face. Dad wouldn't know what hit him. One condition, Nash said, suddenly serious. When this is over, we run it together. No more playing favorites, no more mind games. We break the cycle. I reached across the table and grabbed his hand. Deal. As we left Riley's, Nash stopped me. Hannah, are you ready for this? Really ready. Because once we pull the trigger, I've been ready my whole life, I replied, thinking of all the times I'd been patted on the head and told to let the men handle things. The question is, are they ready for us? Nash laughed, but there was steel in his voice when he spoke. They better be, because the kids they underestimated just grew up. I pulled out my phone and dialed Aiden's number. Get the papers ready, I said when he answered. We're doing this tomorrow. The game was changing. Dad had taught us well, maybe too well. He'd shown us that in business, family loyalty only goes so far. Now it was time to show him just how well we'd learned that lesson. Sign here, here, and initial here, Aiden said, pointing to various spots on the contract. The conference room at his law firm felt like neutral territory, appropriate for what amounted to a corporate coup d'etat. Nash paced behind me, checking his phone every few seconds. Glenn's looking for me. He knows something's up. Almost done, I muttered, signing the final page. The scratch of my pen felt like sealing a pact with the devil, but there was no turning back now. Aiden gathered the documents, his usual smirk replaced by something more serious. You understand that once I file these, there's a 48-hour window where everything's vulnerable. If your father gets wind of this— He won't, I interrupted, just as my phone lit up with a message from Talia. Emergency. Your father called an all-hands meeting for tomorrow morning. Shit. I showed the message to Nash. We're out of time. Not necessarily, Aiden said, loosening his tie. I can have my team work through the night. We might be able to— The conference room door burst open. Glenn stood there, his face flushed with anger. I knew it! I fucking knew it! Nash stepped between us. Glenn, let us explain. Explain what? How you're both betraying the family? Glenn's voice cracked. With him? He jabbed a finger at Aiden. Do you know what Dad will do when he finds out? He's going to find out anyway, I said, standing up. We know about the merger, Glenn. About how you're getting controlling interest while Nash and I get pushed out. Glenn's face went pale. Who told you? Does it matter? Nash cut in. The point is, we're not letting it happen. So, this is your solution? A hostile takeover? Glenn laughed bitterly. Hannah, I expected this from you. But Nash? You're supposed to be the loyal one. Loyal? Nash's voice was deadly quiet. Like when you took credit for my Asia-Pacific strategy? Or when you convinced Dad to kill my project so you could launch the same thing 6 months later? I was protecting the company. You were protecting yourself, I snapped. Just like Dad taught you to. Well, guess what? He taught us, too. We just learned different lessons. Glenn ran his hands through his hair, a gesture so familiar it made my heart ache. We'd been close once, all three of us, before Dad's games turned us against each other. What do you want? He finally asked. Join us, Nash said, surprising me. 3 equal partners. No more games, no more favoritism. We can build something better than Dad ever imagined. Glenn stared at the contract on the table. And if I say no? Then you'll be a minority shareholder in your own company by Monday morning, Aiden said coolly. Your choice. The silence stretched out, broken only by the hum of the air conditioning. I could see the wheels turning in Glenn's head, calculating odds just like Dad had taught us. The merger's not my idea, he finally said. Dad's been planning this for months. He thinks it's the only way to keep the company in the family. His version of the family anyway. We know, I said softly. That's why we have to stop it. Glenn picked up the contract, scanning the terms. Equal shares? Equal voting rights? No special privileges? None, Nash confirmed. We sink or swim together. Dad will never forgive us. Maybe, I acknowledged. But I'd rather have his anger than his condescension. Glenn reached for Aiden's pen. If we do this, we do it right. No more secrets between us. No more playing Dad's games. Agreed, Nash and I said in unison. As Glenn signed, my phone buzzed again. Vanessa's message made my blood run cold. Your father's calling board members. He knows something's happening with the shares. How much time do we have? Nash asked, reading over my shoulder. Aiden was already gathering the papers. If I get these filed within the hour, it won't matter what he knows. The shares will be legally transferred. I'll stall him, Glenn said, heading for the door. He'll expect to see me at the office. Just, whatever you do, do it fast. After he left, Nash turned to me. You think we can trust him? We don't have a choice, I replied. Besides, he's right. We have to be better than Dad. No more manipulation. No more distrust. Aiden cleared his throat. Touching family moment, but we need to move. My car's downstairs. We can make it to the filing office before they close. As we rushed through the lobby, I couldn't help but smile. Dad had always said business was war. He just never expected his own children to outflank him. Ready? Nash asked as we slid into Aiden's car. I gripped the folder containing our future. Ready to win. The company's annual gala was in full swing, crystal chandeliers casting a deceptive warmth over the ballroom. I adjusted my red dress, chosen specifically for the occasion, and watched my father work the room like the king he thought he was. He's going to announce the merger in 20 minutes, Glenn whispered, appearing at my elbow with 2 champagne flutes. Still no word from Aiden? I checked my phone for the 100th time. Nothing. The filing should have gone through an hour ago. Hannah! My father's booming voice cut through the crowd. Come here, darling. The Pattersons want to meet you. Showtime. I plastered on my best Daughter of the Year smile and made my way over. Mr. Patterson and his wife stood with my father, all 3 wearing the self-satisfied looks of people who thought they had the world figured out. So, this is your daughter, Patterson said, giving me a patronizing once-over. Gerard tells me you do something in technology? Actually, I replied sweetly, I run our entire tech division. Well, at least for the next 15 minutes. My father's smile tightened. Hannah has a peculiar sense of humor. Not humor, Dad. Just good timing. Before he could respond, Nash appeared. Dad, we have a situation. The board members are asking questions about the merger announcement. Handle it, Dad snapped. They specifically want to talk to you. Nash's eyes met mine briefly. Something about share verification. The color drained from my father's face. Excuse me, he said to the Pattersons. This will just take a moment. As soon as he was out of earshot, my phone buzzed. Aiden's message was simple. Done. You own the company. Now? Glenn asked, watching our father disappear into the crowd. I nodded. Now! The 3 of us moved quickly to the stage where the podium was set up. Talia intercepted us, holding a folder. Here's the final shareholding breakdown. You'll want this. Ladies and gentlemen, the MC announced, please welcome the CEO of Mac Enterprises, Mr. Gerard. Actually, I cut in, taking the microphone, there's been a slight change to the program. The room fell silent. I could see my father frozen at the back, his face a mask of confusion turning rapidly to anger. Many of you are here expecting an announcement about a merger, I continued, my voice steady despite my racing heart. And you'll get one, just not the one you were expecting. Hannah! My father's voice boomed from the back. Get down from there immediately. I'm afraid I can't do that, Dad. You see, as of 4 o'clock today, the majority shareholding of Mac Enterprises has changed hands. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Patterson's face had gone from smug to alarmed. Thanks to some creative management by you, Dad, we learned exactly how to execute a perfect takeover. Glenn, Nash and I now control 58% of the company's shares. That's impossible, my father sputtered, pushing through the crowd. The share registry was updated an hour ago, Nash cut in, joining me at the podium. We learned from the best, Dad. You always said never telegraph your moves. Glenn stepped up on my other side. The merger with Patterson Industries is officially cancelled. Instead, we'll be announcing a new direction for the company. One that values merit over manipulation. The room erupted in chaos. Board members huddled in corners, furiously checking their phones. The Pattersons made a beeline for the exit. My father reached the stage, his face purple with rage. You ungrateful! Careful, Dad, I interrupted. You wouldn't want to cause a scene. Bad for business, remember? That's what you always taught us. You planned this? All of you? He looked between his 3 children, betrayal warring with something that might have been respect. We learned from you, Nash said quietly. Family first, right? We're just redefining what that means. Security will escort you out, Glenn added, unless you'd prefer to stay and hear about the company's new direction. For a moment, I thought he might explode. Then, something remarkable happened. My father laughed, a short, sharp bark that contained equal parts fury and admiration. Well played, he said, straightening his tie. But remember this, you've shown your hand now, and I taught you everything you know, but not everything I know. Is that a threat? I asked. No, dear, it's a promise. He turned to leave, then paused. By the way, red was always your color. Perfect choice for a coup. As he walked away, head held high, I felt a mixture of triumph and terror. We'd won the battle, but knowing our father, the war was far from over. Ready for this? Nash asked, gripping my hand. I squeezed back, feeling Glenn's supportive presence on my other side. Ready or not, it's done. Time to show them what the next generation can do. Turning back to the microphone, I faced our audience, our company now. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you about the future of Mac Enterprises. He's emptied his private accounts, Talia announced, bursting into my new office, formerly my father's. Every last penny, transferred offshore this morning. I looked up from the stack of documents I'd been reviewing. How much? 50 million, give or take. Nash whistled from his position by the window. That's a lot of go-away money. It's war money, Glenn corrected, loosening his tie. Dad's not running away. He's gearing up for a fight. The intercom buzzed. Ms. Mack, the board members are assembled in the conference room. Here we go, I muttered, gathering my files. First official board meeting as CEO. Anyone want to place bets on how many resignation letters we'll receive? 3, Nash said immediately. Glenn shook his head. 5. The old guard won't stay without Dad. We were both wrong. As we entered the conference room, 7 of the 12 board members stood up, placing identical envelopes on the table. We cannot support this, Hostile action, Margaret, the longest-serving member, announced. Your father built this company, and we saved it, I cut in. Or did none of you bother to review the merger documents? The ones that would have gutted our core businesses and sold our tech division for parts? That's not... Another board member started. Glenn slapped a folder on the table. Page 16, Section 4. The Patterson merger would have stripped our assets and left us as nothing more than a holding company. Dad was selling us out. And none of you noticed, Nash added, his voice hard. Or maybe you didn't want to notice. The remaining board members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Robert, the youngest among them, cleared his throat. What's your plan, then? I sat down at the head of the table, my father's old seat. First, we accept these resignations. Then, we bring in new blood. People who see where the market's really going, not where it's been. You can't just... Margaret began. Actually, we can, Nash interrupted, distributing documents. With our controlling interest, we have the authority to reconstitute the board. But we're giving you a choice. Stay and be part of something new, or leave with your golden parachutes intact. Suddenly, my phone buzzed. The message made my blood run cold. Turn on the financial news, now. I nodded to Talia, who grabbed the remote. The screen flickered to life, showing my father standing at a podium. Regret to announce that my children have orchestrated an illegal takeover of Mac Enterprises, he was saying. Their actions, while technically legal, violate every principle of business ethics and family loyalty. That sneaky bastard, Glenn muttered. Have filed an injunction this morning, Dad continued, challenging the validity of their share acquisition. The courts will decide. I muted the TV, turning back to the board. Well, there's your choice in stark terms. Stay with us and weather this storm, or side with a man who's willing to destroy his own company to maintain control. The room was silent for a long moment. Finally, Robert stood up. I'm staying. Your father's been fighting the future for years. Maybe it's time for a change. One by one, 4 other members removed their resignation letters from the pile. Margaret and her closest allies stormed out, leaving 8 of us in the room. That went better than expected, Nash said once the door closed. Don't celebrate yet, Glenn warned, checking his phone. Dad's injunction is real. Court date is set for next week. He's trying to freeze our assets before we can make any major changes, I realized. Talia, get legal on this now. We need to... The door burst open again. Vanessa rushed in, breathless. We have a problem. Your father just called an emergency shareholder meeting. He's invoking some obscure bylaw about family ownership disputes. Can he do that? Nash asked. With his remaining shares and the support of the departed board members? Yes. Vanessa handed me the notice. The meeting's scheduled for tomorrow morning. That's not legal, Glenn protested. There's a minimum notice period. Unless 3/4 of the board agrees to waive it, I finished. Which they did, right before walking out that door. So what's the play? Nash asked, looking between Glenn and me. I stood up, straightening my jacket. We give him exactly what he wants, a family showdown. But this time, we do it my way. Hannah, Glenn warned. He's got something planned. Dad never makes a move like this unless he's holding cards we can't see. Good thing we've got a few cards of our own, I replied, pulling out my phone. Aiden, remember that contingency plan we discussed? It's time. As I hung up, I looked at my brothers. Dad wants to make this personal? Fine. Let's show him just how personal it can get. The remaining board members watched us with a mixture of fear and fascination. They knew, as we did, that tomorrow would either cement our victory or destroy everything we'd built. Get some rest, I told everyone. Tomorrow, we go to war. The shareholder meeting room crackled with tension. My father sat at one end of the long table, flanked by his lawyers and the resigned board members. We occupied the other end, our remaining allies filling the seats between. Before we begin, Dad's lead lawyer announced, We have evidence of serious irregularities in the recent share transfers. Of course you do, I replied coolly. Just like there were irregularities when you tried to push through the Patterson merger without full board approval? Dad's face darkened. That merger would have secured the company's future. You mean it would have secured Glenn's future? Nash shot back. While selling out everyone else. Enough. Dad stood up, commanding the room like he always had. I built this company from nothing. Everything you have, everything you are, exists because of me. You're right, I said, standing to match him. You did build this company, and you taught us how to take it from you. By going behind my back? By conspiring with Aiden Ryan of all people. Speaking of Aiden, I smiled, checking my watch. He should be here any moment. Right on cue, the door opened. Aiden walked in, followed by an elderly man I'd never seen before. Dad's face went white. Hello, Gerard, the old man said quietly. It's been a long time. Thomas, Dad whispered. What are you doing here? Thomas Patterson? Glenn asked, confusion clear on his face. But I thought... You thought my son Robert ran Patterson Industries, Thomas finished. He does, or did, until this morning when I came out of retirement to reclaim my seat as chairman. Dad sank back into his chair. You can't do this. Actually, I can, and I have. Thomas took a seat next to me. Your daughter showed me the real merger terms. Did you really think I wouldn't find out you were trying to strip my company for parts too? The room erupted in murmurs. Margaret stood up, her voice shaking. Gerard, what is he talking about? The merger wasn't just about taking control from us, I explained, sliding documents across the table. It was about breaking up both companies, selling off the valuable pieces, and leaving the shareholders with empty shells. That's a lie, Dad snarled. Is it? Aiden stepped forward, distributing more papers. These offshore accounts say otherwise. $50 million transferred yesterday. Coincidentally, that's exactly 20% of the estimated profit from the asset sale. The color drained from my father's face as his allies began poring over the documents. You taught us to always have a backup plan, Nash said quietly. So we did. We knew you'd try something like this, Dad. That's why we reached out to Thomas months ago. The Patterson merger is dead, Thomas announced. Instead, we'll be pursuing a strategic partnership with the new leadership of Mac Enterprises, one that benefits both companies and all shareholders. One by one, Dad's supporters stood up and moved to our side of the table. Even Margaret, his most loyal ally, couldn't meet his eyes as she walked away. You've lost, Dad, Glenn said softly. Don't make this any harder than it needs to be. For a moment, I saw something I'd never seen before in my father's eyes. Defeat. Then it was gone, replaced by a cold fury. You want the company? He spat. Fine, take it. But remember this, you're nothing without me. Nothing. No, Dad, I replied, my voice steady. We're everything you made us. That's what you never understood. Every game, every manipulation, every lesson in ruthless business tactics. We learned them all. We just learned them better than you expected. He stood abruptly, straightening his tie. This isn't over. Actually, it is, Aiden interjected. The SEC would be very interested in those offshore accounts. Unless you'd prefer to retire quietly? Dad looked around the room one last time, at the empire he'd built, and the children who'd outmaneuvered him. Without another word, he walked out, his footsteps echoing in the silence. As the door closed behind him, I felt the weight of leadership settle fully on my shoulders. Glenn gripped my hand under the table, while Nash nodded encouragingly from across the room. Well, Thomas said, breaking the tension, shall we discuss the future of our companies? The meeting continued, but my mind kept drifting to that final look in my father's eyes. We'd won, yes, but at what cost? The family was fractured, possibly beyond repair. "You okay?" Glenn whispered, as the lawyers droned on about merger terms. I squeezed his hand back. "Ask me in a year." "He'll be back," Nash murmured from my other side. "You know that, right?" "Let him come," I replied, straightening in my chair. "We'll be ready." Because that was Dad's final lesson, though he never meant to teach it. Sometimes winning means being willing to lose everything else. The autumn wind whipped around the cemetery as I placed flowers on Mum's grave. "You should have seen it," I whispered. "Your kids finally learned to work together." "She would have been proud," Nash said from behind me, "and probably terrified." I turned to find both my brothers there, Glenn holding a coffee carrier with 3 cups, just like old times, before everything got complicated. "Dad's back in town," Glenn announced, handing me a cup. "Talia spotted him at the plaza this morning." "I know." I took a sip, letting the warmth fight off the chill. "He requested a meeting. Just me." Nash straightened. "You're not going alone." "Actually, I am." I faced my brothers. "This needs to end, one way or another." "Hannah," Glenn started. "The company's thriving." I cut him off. "The Patterson partnership is exceeding projections. Our tech division's about to launch 3 new products. Whatever Dad's planning, he can't hurt us anymore." "He's still our father," Nash said quietly. "Yeah," I sighed. "That's why I have to do this." The plaza's lobby was exactly as I remembered from childhood brunches, all marble and mirrors and money. Dad sat in his usual corner, looking smaller somehow, less mythical. "You came alone," he said as I sat down. "Brave. Or foolish. I learned from you, remember? Always face your enemies directly." "Is that what I am now? Your enemy?" He stirred his coffee absently. "I saw the quarterly reports, the stock price, the media coverage. You've done well." "Don't sound so surprised." "I'm not." He looked up, meeting my eyes. "I'm proud." The words hit me like a physical blow. All those years seeking that approval, and here it was, after I'd stopped needing it. "Why did you want to see me, Dad?" He pulled out an envelope. "I'm dying. Cancer. 6 months. Maybe less. If this is another manipulation..." "No games." He pushed the envelope across the table. "Medical records if you don't believe me. I needed to understand something before I go." "What? How did you do it? Really? The share accumulation? Thomas Patterson, all of it? I taught you business, but this was masterful." I studied his face, seeing genuine curiosity there. "You taught us more than business, Dad. You taught us that family is everything, but you forgot what that really means." "And what does it mean?" "It means Glenn, Nash and I succeeded because we finally started acting like family. Real family, not chess pieces in your game." He nodded slowly. "And now? Are you playing your own games with them?" "No," I said firmly. "That's the difference between us. I learned from your mistakes, not just your lessons." Dad was quiet for a long moment, staring into his coffee. "The merger would have destroyed both companies, wouldn't it?" "Yes. I got greedy. Scared, maybe. Watching you 3 grow more capable, more confident. I felt myself becoming irrelevant." "You were never irrelevant, Dad. Just wrong." He actually laughed at that. A real laugh, like when I was little. "Your mother would have loved seeing you take charge. She always said you had her fire." "What do you want, Dad? Really?" "To come home," he said simply. "Not to the company. That's yours now, all of yours. But to the family. Whatever's left of it." I stood up, smoothing my skirt. "Sunday dinner. My place. 7 o'clock. Don't be late." "Just like that?" "No, not just like that. There will be terms, conditions, boundaries. But you're right about one thing. Family is everything. Even broken family." "Hannah," he called as I turned to leave. That red dress at the gala, you wore it because Mom wore red the day she took over her father's company, I finished. You weren't the only one teaching us lessons. Outside, Glenn and Nash were waiting despite my instructions. Some habits die hard. Well? Nash asked. He's dying, I said. And he's sorry, I think, as much as he can be. What now? Glenn looked between us. Now we do what we should have done years ago, I replied. We run the company our way, together. And maybe, just maybe, we try to be a family again. With Dad? Nash raised an eyebrow. With Dad. On our terms this time. Glenn smiled. Mom would like that. Yeah, I agreed, linking arms with my brothers. She would. We walked together toward the office. Our office now. While behind us, the plaza's revolving door spun one last time, letting out a man who was no longer a king, but might still learn to be a father. Sometimes winning isn't about the victory. Sometimes it's about what you do after you've won.